Hi everyone, Sandman here. Today's video was brought to you by a donation from Nicholas, and he didn't give me a specific topic to cover, so I thought I'd talk about my interpretation of Manginas, and I want to give them a message if they're listening. Just look at yourselves and what you've done to mankind. It's Manginas and white knights like yourselves that blindly gave women the vote without forcing women to take any responsibility for it. And now the majority of voters are women, and even if we wanted to go back to traditional relationships, which we don't, with regards to the law, all we can do is sit and watch as our civilization continues to fail, and gynocentrism becomes more and more powerful with each and every single passing day. The banking and credit system teeters on destruction, and the markets look like they'll collapse any day, and all you Manginas can do is think about how to defend women in return for physical delights. But what you don't understand is that you're protecting women from threats that no longer exist. There is no phantom menace of patriarchy out there trying to oppress women. Use your brains and ask these questions. If there was a patriarchy, why did it give women the vote, and why did it allow women to work in the workplace? Why did the men of the patriarchy give women transfusions, C-sections, and epidurals in order to make life easier for them when they give birth and have less children? And these are children that survive into adulthood, no less. And why did the patriarchy build washing machines and electric stoves? According to you, the Manginas, these are all things that oppress women instead of freeing them. Manginas need to wake up to the idea that women are no longer weak and feeble as they appear. Most Western women these days are wolves in sheep's clothing, and they feel a kind of special thrill when they get Manginas and white knights to do their bidding and get nothing in return for it. I'm sure that many people remember the Star Wars movies, and they remember that Darth Vader was a pawn of the Emperor, and that's exactly what you Manginas are. You're the Emperor's whore without even realizing it. You believe that somehow you're helping women become equal and get their fair share of money and power, but what you don't realize is that women already have covert control over men. They already rule over us not with an iron fist, but with soft hands covered in white gloves. And they dare not get those gloves dirty, so they use you Manginas to do all their dirty work. That's the irony of taking the side of feminists as a man, or even becoming a feminist yourself. You're being used by women, and you don't even realize it yet. Some of the most aggressive and powerful feminists out there are actually men. But my question to Manginas and male feminists is this. What motivates you to turn into traitors of men and defend women instead? As far as I can tell, you Manginas out there are love drunk and think that by doing the bidding of women that you'll get a pat on the head. And I'll leave the head patting up to your imagination. But needless to say, you are the Benedict Arnolds and the Judases of this world. You've sold out the future of men for not gold and silver or honor, but instead for sexual gratification. You could have gone to the brothels of Germany or paid an escort, but instead, you've doomed all men because of your instincts to mate with women. And I know these instincts are tough ones to dodge, and just so that everyone knows, every single man going his own way is actually a recovering Mangina. But some guys refuse to grow a pair. And for many of you Manginas out there, it's not your fault. You've been raised by single mothers that have taught you to be completely obedient to women without question. You've never had proper male role models to teach you how to stand up to women. And now you're making your way into the world and spewing your mother's propaganda about men. That's what I learned when I was a kid. I had two friends that were brothers and they were being raised by their single mother. And both of them were completely emasculated and messed up. Their mother would yell at them whenever they would leave the toilet seat up in any of the 3 bathrooms in the house. And now I'm no longer surprised at their behavior when they grew up and went to high school, and when they did everything the girls around them wanted. They did their homework for them, and they carried their books for them as well. And they never seemed to have the self-confidence to tell a girl, no, I'm not going to do that. And I also met other Manginas that were raised by single mothers, and one of them even ended up getting a girl pregnant and married her while he was still in high school. Other guys that were raised by single mothers ended up getting into long-term relationships with the first woman they started dating, and then shortly married them after high school. So the epidemic of white knights and Manginas is probably in part caused by all these guys out there that were raised without proper male role models and by single mothers. So where does this leave the white knights and Manginas? With more and more single mothers out there will obviously be more of you out there white knighting for women instead of standing your own ground. And as a result, the gynocracy will continue to grow until the end. And I hope that some of you Manginas out there decide to take the red pill and awaken yourselves to female nature and how bad the Western woman has become. She will not help you. She will only use you until she gets no other benefits from you. So it's you Manginas and white knights which feel the full effect of Brifold's law. And the feminists, as well as the gynocentric women that you hang around with, are deriving a benefit from having you around. They're using you to divide and conquer other men. Women don't have to fire a single metaphorical bullet in the battle of the sexes. Instead, they have you Manginas to do it for them. That's something that you might never realize. That as a man, our minds are weaker when it comes to keeping track of social relations in society when compared to women. We have to work really hard trying to figure out the variables when it comes to what women are up to. And as men, we're often using the rational as well as the reasonable parts of our brain to keep track of women's behavior, and that's the problem. You can't rationalize away the cunning nature of a female. It's more about instinct instead of solid rules. It's like music. Think of women as being jazz musicians great at improvising, while men are more like classical musicians great at reading notes on a page and playing them back in an organized way. Men are on beat, and women are off beat. And then women get men on their side, and they have the advantage of being both on the beat as well as off of it with regards to musical styles. Unfortunately for us today, throughout human history, the one thing that wakes men up from being Manginas is when we fight in wars and when we face our own mortality. For me, it had to do with reaching the age of 35 and reassessing my life. That's when I stopped being a Mangina. And in the past, when we sent 19-year-old soldiers to war, and when many of them returned home, seeing the horrors of war, they were no longer afraid of anything. And they certainly weren't afraid to die, and more easily stood up to the torments of the women in our society. Today, however, there are so many Manginas out there because they've never actually had to deal with the real hardships of life. And because we can't have wars on a global scale, and we're using robots and drones to attack and kill one another, that basically rises the Mangina quotient even higher. There will be more and more of them in each and every single passing year, and women will continue to get the positions of authority because men are increasingly yes men instead of leaders. If only I could wake you guys up to the horrors of what you're doing to all men. If only there was some way I could talk to the David Futrells of the world and show them what they're actually defending, and how deep the rabbit hole really goes with regards to women's control over men. It's there and it's subtle, and you don't see it unless you have the cunning of a tiger or the intuition of a fortune teller. And you Manginas out there are followers of the religion of the golden uterus. If anyone questions the grandness of women, then you perk up your ears and come running to their side. And if women are truly equal to men in every single way, then why do they need you to come running to their side to cover her ears from criticism of free-thinking men? Are you doing that for her, or are you actually doing it for yourself? I think that when you defend women, you're actually looking for reassurance that you've basically made the right bet in taking the side of women. It's like a misguided Christian thinking that God planted dinosaurs in the ground to test the faith of true believers. You believe that the manosphere, including MGTOW, are like the devil there testing your faith, especially in women. Do you see how pathetic you've become? Women are in an age when they are more powerful than they've ever been, and yet you still believe that they need your protection. Secretly, however, they're like corrupt priests laughing at you for giving them your faith, social currency, and whatever else they can get from you, and taking what you give them and wasting it at the casino. But in this case, playing at the casino for a woman represents the consumer culture, as well as the political and social power that she has. And if a woman ends up winning the metaphorical lottery, she often gets a legion of Manginas to do her bidding. In the days of ancient Greece, Rome, as well as the United States, slaves had to be kept doing the bidding of their masters, using the ever-present fear of force. But for you Manginas, you're doing what women want you to do without the threat of violence. You're doing what they want with the false promise of love. The false promise of love and sexual attention appears to be powerful motivators for you Manginas. So you can see that the carrot is more powerful than the stick, and women know this. And they dangle the carrot over your goofy heads, and you think somehow that she'll slip up and give you the carrot when she's not looking. And it's that false hope that keeps you in line. And women also fear confrontation, so they often use Manginas to confront the men that women won't. I want all of you Manginas out there to take the red pill if you're ready for it, and you can watch all my videos to find out more. I also recently did another video for my Cool Buildings channel this week, and the link to it is in the description below. And it features a pharmacy, or what's known as an apothecary, as it was called in the 1800s, where they didn't have pills back then, and instead they used leeches. And that's what women are doing to Manginas. They're leeching off your talents and skills as a man, and subverting you to do your bidding. Most women out there are like Sith Lords, and you are their apprentices, and you have no idea the treachery that you're facing. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. And for anyone that wants to check out my Cool Buildings channel, basically the latest video is an almost 150-year-old pharmacy created before the time of pills, so I suggest you take a look in the description and view the link. And if you like what you see, then by all means subscribe. Another quick update, I've also been having some throat problems yet again, and think that my strep throat is actually making a comeback. And I was almost hospitalized in the middle of last month, and so I'm now paying close attention and taking lots of meds and getting lots of rest, and hopefully that'll help me get rid of this condition. If you notice that my voice is raspy or tired in the next week or so, then you know what's going on. But luckily for me, besides working on my MGTOW channel, I've been taking some time off of everything else. If anyone else out there has any suggestions on how to treat strep throat, then I'm all ears. I'm also going to a voice coaching session next week to get some guidance so that I can try not to uptalk at the end of each and every single sentence. Who knows, it might actually work, and as a result, it might actually help grow the MGTOW audience online in general. Thanks again, Nicholas, for your donation, and I hope you enjoy this message for Manginas. And as for everyone else, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the divorce lawyers away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.